The following video is about querying the command system, and actually it is about everything that is being explained about querying the command system in the wiki. So up here you have the path to that wiki, and I will add that path to the description of this YouTube video so you can click it. Command arguments marked with a question mark can be queried. So over here in this scene I have an item called my mesh. I have a window open with the event log, and over here I am in the command history, and in the command history I have done a search for item.name with a filter, and you see item.name and usage item.name question mark name.string. The question mark in front of this argument name, which is a string, means that I can query its value. So when I enter item.name followed with a question mark, and adding the question mark like this means that I'm going to query this item.name command. When I now press the enter key, then you see over here in the event log item.name my mesh, and in the results tab in the command history also item.name my mesh. When I select, for instance, the directional light over here and run the item.name command again, and this has been automatically added when I clicked on item.name here in the results tab from the command history. When I press enter now, you see in the results tab directional light item.name directional light. So when I change that, for instance, to whatever, that's the name with that item selected. When I again execute item.name, you see in the event log the name that I typed in, and in the results tab again the name that I typed. So arguments marked with a question mark, like you see in the command history over here, question mark name string, can be queried by adding a question mark to the command, just like that. Press enter and you have queried a command. So we've seen that you can query a command by adding a question mark to it in the command history in this tab over here. When I say item.name question mark and I have to add a space between the command and the question mark, press enter, and you see in the event log my light. I'm going to clear the event log. Over here I have the same but in a script. So I'm importing modo, I'm importing Alex. This isn't absolutely necessary to do those imports in modo 902, but I'm doing so anyway. And on line 12 I have a Python script, very short one, a single line, alex.out, between parentheses alex.eval, and between parentheses quote item.name space question mark. And this will perform the same task. So when I run this script, you see in the event log my light. And the Alex module is not the only way you can use to query. You can also use the modo module, and I'm going to uncomment the next line. So alex.out, and between round brackets modo.item, round brackets .name, and when I clear the log and run the script again, you see now twice my light, once through the alex.eval and once through the modo module. When you want information about the modo module, I'm going to uncomment this line. You can enter modo and no space this time, modo question mark, And when your cursor is right after the question mark, press the tab key. And I'm first going to clear this window. So now again, modo question mark, and press the tab key. You see over here information about the modo module. So name, module, file, description. The modo TD API is a more Pythonic wrapper around the core modo Python API, and it's intended to make performing common coding tasks easier for TDs. But more on the modo module later on. So querying a command can be done with the command history, and you can also do it in a script like I've shown over here. What I will discuss now is querying commands in relation to the user interface. Now, every control in a form is a command, and commands with no queries, so no question mark, are simple buttons. For instance, scene.new. So in the command history, in the commands tab, I have done a search for scene.new, and when I click it, it will be added over here in this bar, and when I press the enter key, you see a new scene has been added. So you can find this command in the file menu. In the top menu bar you have file and you have new control N. So this is a simple button, and any command without a question mark will create a button like over here in the file menu. The command's arguments can be set or they can be omitted as desired. Now in this case, commands, the scene.new command has no arguments at all. But if I choose, for instance, poly.setMaterial, and I'm going to do a search for poly.set, and you see it's already there, poly.setMaterial, this command does have arguments. Now, when I enter poly.setMaterial without any arguments specified, and now I'm pressing the enter key, I will get a pop-up for the polygon set material. So you get a prompt for user values for the arguments when you have not specified them over here. When used in a menu, the entry shows up as a selectable choice that will execute the command. And by convention, the label of a menu item that would open up a modal dialog usually ends in ellipses, meaning 3 dots. So when I go to geometry, polygon, assign material group, you see that assign material group is followed by 3 dots, and that's the ellipses. So every control in a form is a command, and commands without queries are simple buttons, like assign material group or like new control N. So continuing about querying commands in relation to the user interface, we have seen that commands without a question mark, without queries, that they are simple buttons like file, new, simple button. You also have tool style buttons with a toggle value. So these buttons over here are examples of that. When I left click them, they become active. When I left click them again, they become inactive. So when you do that through a command, you can type in tool.set space prim.cube space on. So when I go to my commands, when I do a search for tool.set, and I'm going to expand this a little bit, you have the usage, tool.set preset : string, and then question mark mode : and then you have text value hints. So this is a toggle value, and then I can set tool.set, which is this command, primcube on. When I press the enter key now, you see that the button for the cube tool has become active. And when I say instead of on, off, you've guessed it, as you see over here in the basic tab, the cube tool has become inactive. So there are no arguments that are required, as the toggle value argument is found automatically. Another example is the commands for vertex, polygon, edge, item, and material selections. They are also toggle value commands, and this is vertices, edges, polygons, materials, items. These are also examples of this. For instance, when I create a cube and I'm going to change my components mode, then first I'm going to do in the command history a search for select.type from. So this is the commands we are dealing with now, and usage is select.type from, argument type list colon string question mark enable boolean. So the value of enable can be queried. Now when I simply say select type from, so earlier I've shown in an earlier video or part, I've shown you that when you don't need to specify arguments, and if you run this code like that, you will get a pop-up. So let's test that. So with select.type from entered, press the enter key, and you see now I get a pop-up, and then I can specify which component mode I want. So I am in polygon right now, so I'm going to cancel. For now I'm going to say, for instance, I'm in vertex component mode. In command history, select.type from, press the enter key, and I'm going to copy this list, Control C, Control V, and when I say enable, so in command history the command is select type from, type list string, so this is the type list string, and enable on or off. Enable, when I click OK now, you see it has jumped from vertices to polygons. So to recap, every control in a form is a command. Commands without a question mark are simple buttons like File, New, and you also have toggle style buttons like the cube primitive, which you can toggle on and off. Just wanted to add that I can do the last example also, of course, over here in the command history. So when I type in select.type from and then the string edge semicolon vertex semicolon polygon semicolon item semicolon p tag, and with a value of 1 for true, when I press enter now, you see up here it has changed from polygons to edges. So we will do that. For instance, select items, enter that command again, press enter, and you will see up here from items it will go to edges, enter, and edges has been selected. So you do not need to, when you only have select from and you execute that, you get your select type from list. You can also do that, of course, over here. That's just something I wanted to show you. With regards to toggle value tool style buttons, I wanted also to show you the following. When no tool is active, and I have shown you in the previous part that when you enter in the command history bar down here tool.set space prim.cube space on. When you execute that command, then the cube primitive tool becomes active, and when I set it to 0 or off, it toggles off again. That's what I had shown you, but I also wanted to show you the following. When I go over to the commands tab and type in tool.set, and it's actually tool.set, this one, and now press enter, I get this pop-up, and over here tool presets, I get a complete list. When I hover over this bar here, and I don't have to click any mouse button, I just hovering over it and moving my mouse, you can see you get a whole list of tool presets that you can scroll to, and they are not all alphabetically, so I'm going to search for my prim.cube, and here it is. So prim.cube, and I can set my mode to on. I can specify a value. Haven't checked that out yet, but now with tool presets prim.cube and tool set mode to on, when I press OK, now the cube tool also becomes active. Just wanted to show you. So left clicking it again to make it inactive. Just wanted to show you that when you type tool.set and then without the question mark, you get this pop-up. As explained earlier, when you execute a command without a question mark, when you're not querying, then you create buttons, and in this case you create a tool style button like this. So this can be interesting once you start scripting to know about this. So that's what I wanted to show you as an extra. The following sections is about querying commands with the question mark syntax. Such commands queried with the question mark syntax will create different controls depending on the data type of the argument being queried. The first one that we are going to look at is the checkmark. Checkmark controls are created in a form when querying a command argument with a Boolean data type. Such an example is bref.value. As you can see in commands here, I have the command bref.value, and its usage is name string and then value with a question mark in front of it, meaning it can be queried. Now, first of all, let me type in the command, for instance, bref.value, like we see here, and then space opengl.grid visibility. This controls the grid visibility of the viewport. When I enter that command, when I press the enter key now without a question mark, I get a pop-up and you see check mark. So this is the first type that we are going to discuss. And when I uncheck it and press OK, you see my grid visibility is off. I have to note that when you press the O key to go to visibility and show grid, it is still checked here, although it is not visible over here. So probably that has not been linked in modo. See, when I press grid again to uncheck it and press it again, nothing changes here. So in order to reset that, I'm going to run the command again, bref.value space opengl.grid visibility, press enter, check mark, check it, and OK, and my grid visibility is back. Now, such a command can be queried with the question mark. So let's do that. And we have in the command history the value argument, which can be queried. So this is going to return true or false. And as you can expect, the grid is visible, so it should return true. So Control V to paste the command again, and now space question mark. When now I press enter with the question mark added and I go to the results tab, you see query ref.value OpenGL.grid visibility question mark true, and indeed the grid is there. When I set it off again, so value check off, now my grid is not visible. When I add a question mark now, it will return false. So press enter and you see in the results tab the pref.value OpenGL.grid visibility question mark false. So it's not visible. The second type of control that is being created when you query commands with a question mark are pop-ups. So commands with integer or string arguments that are a list of choices, they create pop-ups. Such an example is select.symmetry_axis. So we go to the command history, do a search for select.sy, then you have select.symmetry_axis. When I execute that command, select.symmetry_axis, you get a pop-up. And over here I can specify, for instance, and you see also over here that symmetry is active. So axis, when I set it, for instance, to 0, and it says symmetry Y over here. Now when I set axis to 0, you see symmetry has been set to X. In result, you see success select.symmetry_axis 0. So with integers or strings you get a pop-up. When I enter that command and now query it, so question mark, then you see a return value of 0. So X, symmetry X returns a value of 0. When you go to the commands tab and go to the usage, you have select.symmetry_axis, and it only has one argument, question mark axis, and it's data type integer. So indeed it returns an integer 0. And the question mark, of course, means it's queryable. That's what we just have done. When I execute that command again to get a pop-up, so without the question mark, and for instance set it to 2, now you see symmetry has been turned to the z-axis, and when I question it, Control V to paste it, space question mark enter to the results tab, now you see that my value that has been returned is the integer 2. So that was the second type of control that's being created when commands are queried with the question mark syntax. So the third type of control that is being created when you use commands or when you query commands with the question mark syntax are text and numeric edit fields. Sorry about that. Basic text and numeric data types such as string, integer, distance, percent, and so on, they create edit fields. An example of that can be found with the commands with tool.attr. When, for instance, you type in tool.attr space, sorry about that, prim.cube space senx, then you will get an error. It says error setting argument data type. In order to create the numeric the text or the numeric edit field, I have to first make sure that the cube tool is active. So when I make it active, now it is active. Now when I execute tool.attr space prim.cube space senx, I get a pop-up. it says attribute value 0, and over here in the properties you can see position X, because then X will control the position X. When I set it, for instance, to 5, press OK, you see now position X has been set to 5. And now I can query it, because as you can see in the command history over here, value is a variable data type and it has a question mark in front of it, so it can be queried. So when I press space question mark and now press enter, and when I go to the results tab, it says 5. So you see it has in the properties been set to 5, and when I query it with a question mark, I get a return value of 5. So I can also set it over here, for instance, back to 0. And when I run the commands again, Control V to paste, now with a question mark, press enter, you see it has been set to 0. And when I enter the command again, but without a question mark and without any arguments, then I get the pop-up. And I can also, of course, specify a value directly over here when I set it, for instance, to 4 and press enter. Now you see Q properties position X has been set to 4, and I get a result, success, results in the command history, success, and it also returns the value. The last section of the wiki concerning querying commands with question marks is about refiring. Undoable commands that support dragging, such as create numeric edit fields with mini sliders and color controls. Such undoable commands take advantage of a feature known as refiring. First, I'm going to show what that means. It will be easier. So I am in the shading list. I have selected the base material, and in its properties you have, for instance, the diffuse color, and I can left click with my mouse button over here and drag and set it, for instance, all the way up to 1. Now in my undos you see only one undo, so if I drag it up here, then it goes back to the previous color. So I can also drag it back to underneath over here, and it redoes my color change. So in the undos I only have one undo, but in the history I have actually a bunch of them. So if at a certain point you say, well, this one was better, so I can double click it, and now I get to a previous state. So my undo block was only one entry, but my history was a whole bunch of entries. And if you want to know more about that, I suggest you check out the wiki. I think for now this will suffice. And this concludes the end of this video. So this video was about querying commands with the question mark. Bye.